Hi, this is Mike making my video. Uh, it's 4/28/2025 and it's 12:30 a.m. And anyway, I'm making this video, uh, to talk about the nature of reality, more or less, and the two different worlds, heaven and hell. Um, so heaven and hell in the middle world that we live in. The middle plane, is where we're at. The spiritual world is above this one, and I suppose hell is below this one. It's probably, but I've seen demons in this world, so it's probably that this world is paradise. Uh, it's heaven and hell exist both in the same realm. Uh, heaven and earth become one, but earth and so anyway, it's earth, heaven, and hell. They all exist in the same plane of existence. So, with that being said, there's uh, I would venture to say it's just heaven and earth and keep it simple. Uh, but like the awakened state, our conscious mind is in charge of that. And of course, a subconscious mind is a creative state. The state where supernatural things happen. Uh, but I don't think it's one side or the other. In a sense, it's more or less you have one mind, and it's when the two become one. When the two become one, that's when you have both sides of your mind in peace with each other. And when that's the case, you don't have your rational mind trying to analyze everything, and you don't have your subconscious mind, uh, overdoing things either. So it's more or less when you get the two minds and you make them into one mind, you're operating at twice the capacity. And when you don't have friends or family or a wife or a girlfriend, or a job, or a pet, basically, or even a car to maintain. You have all those things, you put them to the side. And when you do that, basically you're dedicating all that energy, all that mental energy into one thought process. And you're single pointed, and that's when you focus. And, eventually it gets to the point where you fold before that, and then you dedicate all that energy and thought to single pointedness. And single in purpose too, so all the things you do are dedicated towards that one goal. Uh, you listen to that still small voice, and you listen to your intuition, and you step out of that comfort zone that you're in, and you're not stagnant. You're not lukewarm. You're not wishy-washy, and you step out of that zone, and you have courage, and you act, and when your beliefs are there, where you believe that all things are possible, there's infinite possibilities in every action. And, when you do that, and then, of course, you have a high vibration and your beliefs are there. Your thoughts, all your thoughts are dedicated towards uh, your heart, mind, and soul, your mind, uh, your emotions, your heart, and then, of course, your body. Uh, your thoughts, words, and deeds are all dedicated towards entering into this kingdom of heaven. You seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will follow. So, when you have the right mindset and you have the right actions, you have the right recipe, and you have to let go of everything and when you let go of everything, that's more or less considered to be a sacrifice. And when you do that, your mind, you become nothing. And then when you become nothing, that's everything. Actually, your mind takes off, and you don't lean on your own understanding, the limitations of your own understanding, and then you basically, when you lower yourself, you humble yourself. Basically, what you're doing is you're telling your mind that you're in danger. It's almost like what your mind does is it sets the stage, for giving you a peace, and comfort. And once you have that peace that surpasses all understanding, it surpasses the mind. And what it does is it basically comforts you when you're in distress. And those crushing burdens, turn into a light load. And the yoke is light, and God's lordship, or Jesus, or whatever, is gentle. So it's a peaceful feeling. So once you do that, you basically have supernatural events that unfold. And it can be all kinds of things as far as all the sciences are concerned. And of course, quantum theory is probably the highest science there is. So anyway, you find out that the empirical knowledge, is out the window. And you find out that all laws, as far as the physical laws, aren't fixed, and they're not static. They're fluid, and they're flexible. And so anyway, that's really how that works. And you find out that there is no rhyme or reason to it necessarily. The universe, its main goal, is that you propagate your species, and then of course it does whatever it can do. Your mind does whatever it can do to keep you alive, and basically does everything to protect you. And it's not so much like the universe itself does that. You control the universe. You have lordship over the universe, and the universe is subdued by you. And you find out that the universe isn't worthy of you, meaning that you have power over it, and it subdues to you, it gives in to you, and then you find out that the world is not a bad place. Hell turns into heaven. And that's really just a matter of the way you think, and your thoughts basically determine your outcomes. So it's like, maybe something might happen that's bad, but you can't necessarily force it to change. But you can change the way and how it affects you. So something negative can happen, but you can turn that negative into a positive. And of course, some things are negative on the surface, but the universe's only goal is really to teach you something. And when it does, and of course that pearl of wisdom, that the keys to the kingdom, those keys, those pearls, and what happens is they unfold, and then they open up, and then you figure out that all things are possible, and then you figure out that nothing is beyond what, if you can imagine it, it can be done. And that's more or less how it works. So it's actually a bittersweet symphony, but the thing is there are no limitations. Everything's limitless. And you watch movies like that, like the Limitless, or The Matrix, or Lucy, or The Mandela Effect. And you find out that all those things, the infinite potential that is in everything, and You know, you have to have the desire, the burning desire in your heart, you know, and your mind. And if you don't have that desire, you can't do it. So, you know, you just basically, and if you don't have the openness, if you're closed-minded, you know, you can't receive a lot of these things. So you got to be open to it. So anyway, that's how that works. And you know, it's really just an illusion anyway. All physical matter, all events, all people. Uh, you know, the past is no longer here, and the future is yet to come. So you know, we're living right now in this moment, and that's when the magic happens. That's when, you know, some people are stuck in the past, and some people are always looking to escape every situation they're in. But what you resist persists, you know. So if you don't challenge these things, if you don't face them head on, you know, they're going to keep manifesting in different ways until you actually conquer them. So, you know, that's really ultimately the goal, is to have conquered everything and live a calm, peaceful life, you know. And, but once you come to the conclusion that it's all just an illusion, and, you know, it's almost easier to say that the universe is smaller than you are. You're bigger than the universe. And, you know, which is crazy, but, you know, you really do understand that everything is projected outwardly. It's all on the inside of you, and, you know, how else could something be so perfect? The timing is so perfect in different situations, and then the things that happen are impossible to do outside of yourself, but they do happen outside of yourself. So you just come to the conclusion, you know, that really your best life now, and you take advantage of that. And you know, there's plenty of rewards in this life. Back in the days of Jesus, you know, people suffered and life was not all that pleasant, and they were always looking at for the end. You know, they were always trying to get out of the situation they were in, and I can't blame them. It was a lot of suffering. You know, there was a lot of death, and there was a lot of pain, and you know, today's atmosphere, it's not like that, but you know, there still is suffering, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. So anyway, you can have a lot of wealth, you can have a large family, a lot of friends, a lot of knowledge, a lot of magical abilities, you know, and you know, a lot of intelligence. You can have all that stuff, and it comes, you know, and it's like, but you come to the conclusion that money and wealth and family and all that stuff disappears at some time. Your knowledge becomes to the point where it really doesn't matter. And really, ultimately, you just live a simple life. And, you know, it's like you're not trying to chase after things all the time. You know, women and wine. Wine means alcohol, but it also means knowledge. Women and wine. And, of course, money and sexual things, like as far as women go. And you know, you don't have to have a lot of friends. Most of those friends can be your worst enemies. So it's like, why bother? And you know, why bother getting married if you're older like me? There's no point in it. There's no point to do it if you're not going to have any more kids. And there's no point in going to college, you know, and trying to learn something new, especially when it's going to cost you $500,000 in the end of the day. So you just keep everything simple, and you appreciate everything for what it is. That's more or less being modest. And being modest is being grateful, and being grateful is, you know, just keeping things simple, and you know, having gratitude, and you know, it's more or less the same as being content, I guess is the word I'm searching for. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Over and out.